This is a follow-up video to the previous one I made talking about shorting tech IPOs. I just want to talk a little bit about option contracts. And when I made that video, I didn't really talk about the strike price. But so the strike price is where you have an option contract and you say, okay, I'll reserve the right. It depends if you're doing a put or a call. Right? So if it's a call, you're like, I reserve the right to buy at a certain price. So let's say the stock is at $100 right now, and you do a call, and then it goes up, right? So let's say 150. You would say, oh, I reserve the right to buy at $100, and that's what you're doing, right? From the put, then it's the opposite. You're like, I reserve the right to sell at like $100. Then if it tanks down to let's say 80, you can now like have the right to sell at 100, right? But one important thing with that is, so a lot of people are like asking or just curious, right? Like, okay, how does the value of a contract work? So there's a lot of different factors affecting it for options. But one of the interesting things is it is kind of like a probabilities market in the sense that you have the in the money zone. So in the money zone is like this range of different contracts that are perceived to be like very likely or like currently in effect, as in the stock price is really close to the strike price. So if you're to use it, you could actually use it to buy shares right now. Then you have out of the money. These are ones where technically it's like not really near the strike price and it doesn't seem possible that it's actually going to hit. And you can imagine as those option contracts, let's say, move to from out of the money into the money, and that's just a term, it's just kind of like a range, right? So if you think about the desirable like sector, the desirable section is like in the money, that's what we call it, in the money. And then out of the money is the more less desirable contracts that it has more risky in a sense, because if you don't know what you're doing, it's kind of like you're buying it and it like has a very low chance as of right now to, come true or like actually return. But going back to shorting tech IPOs, right? So a lot of times if you are shorting it and you're doing a 1-year contract, you kind of want to take something that's out of the money, because one, out of the money contracts are cheaper, and two, that allows you to have like a lot of different things, right? So one is, let's say it works and the price does actually drop, your contract will automatically start moving into the money range, right? And that will actually just cause its value to go up even if the strike price is not hit, because the probability that that strike price could be hit goes up. Like, it's like, for example, if your contract says $100 and maybe you're doing a put and it's like 110 and it's been going down, it's very likely you'll hit that 100, and that's why the value of that will go up, right? Because then more people are more like, there's more demand for that contract in the sense that it's more likely that it could actually be useful and that it'll actually hit, right? So there's one part of the options like contract value, which comes from the fact that, okay, I'm able to actually use it, right? As long as the strike price is hit, then I can actually use it to buy shares. But there's the other side of the whole probabilities game of, if I buy something that has a very low likelihood and then it all of a sudden has a very high likelihood of coming true, then that difference will result in a bunch of value, and the value of the contract will go up a lot. But then at the other end, right, there's that time decay thing, which is typically why I, don't personally ever do really options like shorter than, let's say, like a year or so. Because when you have, let's say, one option that's like gonna expire at the end of the week, you start to have all these weird time things that happen with like the fact that there's so much little time left, and it also depends on what the volatility is, and so that can cause your like value of your contract to just fluctuate a bunch. So it can go up a bunch, it can go down a bunch, and so you can very easily lose a ton of money doing that. And yeah, so I think that's just something I wanted to point out, because the fact of the matter is the value of how like option contracts are kind of, valued is very complicated. But there's the probability aspect, which I thought was kind of important, because even if your strike price is not hit, you could actually make money just by the fact that it becomes more likely for something to, actually come true in that sense for the contract. So of course that only happens if you're buying out of the money contracts and they eventually move to in the money contracts, because pretty much anything in the money will typically be pretty expensive compared to out of the money contracts.